So I'm here with Anthony Sicilia, and today we're just going into a little bit about background of Anthony and what he's experienced in his life in regards to transformational change. My last interview I conducted with Barry Bremner. We talked about how Christ transformed his life. So today, Anthony, I'd like to welcome you to the show and like to just ask you a few simple questions about your background.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure. So Anthony, you are currently living in St. Mary's, Ontario.
Correct. Yep.
That's right. So what is your current occupation? What keeps you busy?
I'm a student at Conestoga College. I study under the radio broadcasting program.
Nice. So in radio, could you just kind of describe what brought you up to the point of doing radio?
Yeah, what brought me up to the point of doing radio was a few years ago I went to college because I wanted to be a big sports anchor, and I was running after the world because for a number of years I was being teased and all that stuff, and I didn't feel adequate enough. Mm-hmm. So I leaned on sports a lot, and I had my idols. Mm-hmm. And I would say that the reason I went to college was to become this big famous sports anchor guy and work for a big major company. And I walked into college, and every one of my teachers was like, "You're not gonna make it."
Right.
But I had no idea what would happen years later. So it took me a number of years through illnesses, through failings, to realize that, hey, journalism is okay, but maybe this direction isn't what God wanted. So I totally forego the journalism. But that was only because I came to know Christ.
So can you describe what happened when you came to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ?
It was honestly the most scariest thing I've ever come across. I will tell you, that night I developed CO2 poisoning, and a lot of people that have CO2 poisoning aren't blessed enough to get up. They fall asleep and they die. The only reason that I knew that I had CO2 poisoning is because I talked to the firefighters, and they told me that I had CO2 poisoning. I had fire running through my lungs. I had to drink water every couple hours to flush whatever liquid was in my system that's causing my lungs to shut down. And then my heart was palpitating. I knew that there was something wrong when I was dizzy and couldn't get up the stairs.
Where was the carbon monoxide coming from?
It was coming from a furnace that broke in the wintertime. This was December of 2013, or 2014, sorry. Yeah, December of 2014 it was coming. I lived in the basement basement house of my unit at the time, and of course my room was right next to the furnace.
So your lungs are burning up, you're in tremendous pain, I assume?
Yeah.
And what do you do?
I didn't know what to do at first because I thought, there's something wrong with me. I'm drinking water, but I can't seem to cool the fire because my lungs were so intoxicated with, whatever pollution was in that CO2, and it was like, I'm drinking water, but nothing's happening.
So did you cry out to God? Did you what happened at that point?
No, what happened at that point was it was about 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And thankfully I had a roommate that was just up the stairs, and I said, we need to go to the hospital. I'm dying here. I have carbon monoxide poisoning, and if I don't get to the hospital quick, I'm going to die. So he said, get in the car, let's go. So We got to the hospital. I was in serious pain. I couldn't, my chest, everything was just caving in on me, or so it felt. And I got to the hospital, got right away in a gurney. I didn't even have to wait. And they had said, well, we'll do some testing on you, but you don't look too good. So we will monitor you, and we'll be right back. And, you know, at that point, because there was carbon monoxide in my lungs, I could barely speak. So this went on for about 10 minutes, and I looked at my roommate. I just looked at him, and basically what I said was, I'm not going to make it. You're going to have to tell my family that I'm going to die here. And the first thought that came to my mind was, how do I tell my mother that I just died of carbon monoxide poisoning? How did she get over it? How do I tell my twin brother that, you know, I developed carbon monoxide poisoning and I died? And my roommate was sitting at the end of my bed. He said, "You're not, are you okay?" Like, because he was like, I said, "No, I'm going to die here." And to tell you the truth, I knew I was going to die. I honestly felt that I was going to die. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to die. But I was afraid because I knew that I wasn't ready. I would say that because for many years I had wavering faith. I was in and I was out. I was in and I was out. But that's because I never really had a solid foundation. It would only just come in droves, in waves, like oceans, right? When the wind comes, you know, the water comes up and the water goes away, right? So for me, I didn't have enough faith to stabilize myself in understanding true values and true scriptures. But I would talk about it to people, but I wouldn't live the life, because behind closed doors, I would talk about it, but I wouldn't walk the walk. I was living a whole different life. See, I was becoming a hypocrite, and I didn't know that I was becoming a hypocrite. I would do this, I would hang out with these people, this people, I would do this with them. I don't want to get into too many details because that's the past. But it was that moment, those wavering moments of faith, that I knew that I had enough faith in me that even though I was a sinner, I still felt it was important to pray. So what I honestly said to God that night, I said, "God, I'm going to die and I'm going to go to hell. But if you save me, I will find you and I will serve you the rest of my life." And I looked up, and it was the greatest moment that I ever looked up, because 10 minutes later, they checked everything and nothing. All the evaporation, you know, the carbon monoxide just evaporated. All that was left for me to do was urinate it out, basically. And it was just amazing. Come in there with carbon monoxide poisoning. Oh, you're going to die. 5-minute prayer, boom. But I knew at that moment, when I got saved and spared, I knew that it was serious. So I made a commitment to shut out the world and its junk, like totally transform my life and follow Christ. So what I did, I was a big sports guy at the moment, and I knew that when I came back from the hospital that following night, it was customary for me to watch a wrestling show, because it was a Monday night. And Monday night for 20 years or 25 years, I would be in that television program for 3 hours every Monday night. 3 hours. And I came home and I'm like, turning this junk off, never watching it again. And then I got a call from my friend who told me that her husband got a healing of cancer. And, you know, I knew this friend for 20 years, and I knew her husband for 20 years. And her husband never, ever, ever went to church. And I knew that when this guy went to church, that there was something to it. Like, what would bring this guy to church? So, I mean, it was obviously God. But the thing is that when they invited me down there, 2014, July 4th, it was like nothing I had ever experienced. It was the greatest, moment of my life. And I don't speak very vaguely about it because it's just so overwhelming and so extraordinary that I can't even describe it. It's like indescribable. The sensations and the emotions that I felt in terms of going down there for the first time to the ministry, which my friends do visit quite often. And I realized, I walked in that church, I said, this is the church. This is Philadelphia. And I asked my friend one moment, one service, I said, you know what, I'm hungry, but, you know, I'm not like, it's not like overly hungry. And he's like, yeah, well, you're digesting the word. You don't need physical food at this point. You're digesting the word. And that kind of stuck with me. I said, if this is what happens, then if God tells me to fast and read the word, I'm going to do exactly what God says. So I took the teachings of what's being taught, and I constantly refresh myself. But does that mean everything's okay in my life? No. The elevator goes up and the elevator goes down. Just because you become a Christian, that doesn't mean you're on easy street. It means the devil hates you and is going to come after you 10 times more. But that's why Paul said you have to be ready in season and out of season. You know, just because things are good at a moment, it doesn't mean that the devil's going to quit. Because even when the devil tempted Jesus, he said he was only there for a season and then he'd be back. But now there's no record of him ever coming back. But I believe he did come back because for a season, right? But I believe Jesus was victorious because he fed the devil pure truth. And the devil can't stand the truth, because if God speaks the truth, it's the same as Jesus speaking the truth. And if we're a child of God and we speak the truth that Jesus spoke, then it's the same as God speaks it. And if God speaks it, the devil knows that's it.
Amen. Yeah. So, to all our viewers, this is an amazing account of God's grace and mercy.
Absolutely.
And I was just thinking about the verse, how that that if you're double-minded, you can't expect to receive anything from the Lord. And that's what Anthony's testimony shows us, is that initially he would maybe have a prayer here, a prayer there, but he needed a rock-solid foundation. He was double-minded in his way of living. But
absolutely,
it transformed because of an incident that he went through, a life-threatening incident. And my dear friends and viewers, I hope that you don't have to go through a life-threatening incident to come to the point that Anthony came to. I hope that you can just put your trust in Christ today and realize that and believe that He is the answer and have that rock solid foundation for your life.
Yeah, and I will say that it's too late in the hour just to dabble and, come in and out of service. If you're going to dedicate your life to Christ, do it.
And do it today, because the Bible says, behold, now is the acceptable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. So we thank you for watching this show, and we would encourage you to make a commitment today. Make a commitment to Jesus Christ, to accept Him first into your life and into your heart, and to say that you're going to live for Him. And God will honor that. For it says in the Bible, them that honor me, I will honor. So it's been a pleasure today to interview with you, Anthony. And
Thank you very much.
We're excited to see what God is going to do in your life to come as He uses you in radio and in different avenues of your life.
Yeah.
So God bless, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
All right.